What's your knee-jerk reaction?
He's washed, and Vingegaard and Evenepoel are going to win the Tour.
Welcome back to the show. Kit Nicholson, we'll start with you.
Oh, thanks. Hello.
Good week?
Quiet week, which is perfectly fine at this time of year. Thank you very much.
Agreed. Dane Cash, up bright and early.
Yeah. Hey, Johnny.
Good
Dream
morning.
team back together, eh?
Good morning.
The dream team indeed. Well, speaking of dream teams, let's talk about a dream time trial, because I think that's what happened on Wednesday. Now,
especially for us, I think. It was
for
a dream.
us, yes.
For the viewers, yeah.
Luckily, Ronan is currently riding around Ireland on a bicycle, literally the entire outside. So for time trial purists like him, he maybe would have not enjoyed all the pomp. You know, he just wants to watch, you know, proper time trial. No, not all of us lot getting involved.
Yeah, but he did get his thing in as well, in that there were some people wearing absurd helmets. So
what, different to normal?
Probably would have enjoyed that. I don't know. Vingegaard's was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But we've seen it before, though, haven't we?
Yeah, I think we've seen it before. It was a nicer colour, I would give him that. Okay, so Dane, what I'd like you to do, before we give any opinion, any analysis, I want you to try and describe to me, in the most basic terms, what happened. So maybe just names and numbers in terms of time gaps.
You want an earnest description of what happened?
Yes, please.
Okay. I always have to check with you. I never really know if that's what you want. Remco Evenepoel won the time trial.
Great.
Jonas Vingegaard was second in the time trial.
Mm-hmm.
Matteo Jorgensen was third in the time trial. Vingegaard 20 seconds behind Remco Evenepoel. Fourth place finisher in the time trial was Tadej Pogačar, who was 49 seconds. I think. 21 and 49 seconds. So not only did Pogačar not win, I think that was probably expected.
Yeah.
Evenepoel was the favorite, but I think people expected Pogačar to be close. Vingegaard was better than Pogačar, and by a not insignificant amount.
Yeah, how long
Especially
was
over
the
a
time
TT of
trial?
Just
Yeah.
17.4K. That's a decent amount of time.
Okay, so what I would like from you now, because this is what the Dauphiné is all about. This is all that, you know, Cycling was talking about yesterday, was they were given knee-jerk reactions to a singular time trial result.
Yeah.
That ultimately doesn't mean much, even if that's part of the fun. So what's your knee-jerk reaction, Dane?
It's that it actually means everything. I mean, the fact that Pogačar didn't win by itself is
I mean, that is shocking, yeah.
a shock. And the fact that he was beaten by Vingegaard. I mean, last year at the Tour, he was a better time trialist than Vingegaard on both occasions. This year, this is a short TT. As Joe pointed out when he was editing my story yesterday, the TT at the Tour, they're going to do double the TT miles. So I'm thinking Pogačar's going to actually lose double the time when they go do that TT. If he was down 29 seconds to Vingegaard here, he's going to be down 58 seconds at the Tour. And Evenepoel is going to lay the foundations for his Tour de France overall win.
Perfect. Kit, you in agreement with that?
Well, so yes, I saw some knee-jerk responses. One from our esteemed colleague, absent colleague right now, that Evenepoel is now a favourite, maybe a favourite for the Dauphiné. See, I think about this time trial, yeah, obviously Vingegaard, amazing, obviously on some great form, but we learned almost exactly nothing about Evenepoel because we know that chap slips through the air, you know, Aero skin and all that. That was inevitable. We've learned zilch about Evenepoel, and in fact, maybe the fact that he only beat Vingegaard by 20 seconds is more of an indicator of his lack of form than the opposite. I don't actually believe that to be true. I think what we've got here is an Evenepoel who is a very good time trialist. We've got a Pogačar who is going to be scratching his head, maybe a little bit, making excuses for which I think we'll be getting to shortly. But besides maybe dodgy pacing, who knows? But yeah, we've learned nothing about Evenepoel and maybe quite a lot about Vingegaard. And Pogačar is just going to be really, really, really cross and desperate to get something done.
Can we discuss the excuses? Because you mentioned what Pogačar said. The UAE team sent out the quotes from Pogačar, as they often do after a stage. You get a
when he doesn't have an interview, yeah.
Although they didn't send it, I'd literally written the story and then they sent it right after that. So
Yeah.
if you're listening, come on, guys. He said he felt like he went out too conservatively in the first section of the TT. I say he didn't make any gains in the second half of the TT. So that couldn't have made that big of a difference to him. Again, I think the actual reality here is that he's washed, and Vingegaard and Evenepoel are going to win the Tour.
Both of them. That's impressive. First ever draw.
They're going to do what those high jumpers did at the Olympics and just decide to share.
Just share
the tie. Yeah,
with a
tie.
massive hug. Which one will be jumping into the arms of the other, do you think?
Vingegaard
might snap, actually.
Isn't Evenepoel somehow shorter?
He is,
they're
but
both
he's
small,
not.
But
he's sturdier, isn't he?
He's a bit sturdier, yeah.
In all seriousness, I don't think it actually means that Vingegaard and Evenepoel are going to win the Tour, but I do think Pogacar's excuse is it does not pass the smell test to me.
No.
Well,
but the bike excuse might, or at least it's not an excuse because obviously they can't say anything bad about the bike. But the fact that he went and lifted Jorgensen's TT bike afterwards, and there was a lot of talk about how Pogacar actually looked quite uncomfortable at times. And that there was a bit of speed wobble on his own bike and a lot of vibration going on. And he did have a disc wheel on the back. I don't know what the wind conditions were like. And the others might have been on the same or similar setups. But it seemed like there was a bit of my bike's inferior to those bikes. That this might have made a difference. Maybe it was in his head that actually if he goes and fiddles with a Cervélo, then he looks like he's giving respect to them and without actually, I don't know.
Well,
it was just the conspiracy theories are rife about that, but obviously they can't say anything.
Yes, there's a great photo. Well, Eurosport cameras picked it up of Pogacar holding the seat and the handlebars and giving a good old look as a UAE soigneur kind of looks on, slightly exasperated, like you're not supposed to do this. You're not even supposed to go near. You're not even supposed to think of a Cervélo. This is pro cycling is 1984 on two wheels, but Pogacar didn't speak to the media after the time trial. But more than that, according to Daniel Freeb, who's on the ground there for ITV, he was saying how the UAE camp was obviously, the contrast was stark in response between them and Visma. Visma giving interviews to anyone who wanted one. And what was awkward, apparently, was that the Visma and the UAE buses were parked, and cars were parked next to each other. And as Visma started giving the interviews, apparently Pogacar was getting changed inside one of the vans and just closed the window so he didn't have to listen to it, which is great. And maybe that gives away just how disappointed he was with his performance.
Well, that's another about the teams. It's another thing. Is we are very familiar with seeing 4 UAE riders, or at least more than 2 UAE riders in the top 10 of a time trial, and the same could be said for Visma when they've got their 80-meter race. But Pogacar was the only UAE rider within the top 20. In fact, I can't even see. I'm still scrolling.
30,
trying to find. Yeah, the next UAE rider was Sivakov in 31st. 2 minutes down. And I don't think. It's not necessarily. I mean, they're different sort of setups. These teams, aren't they? Pogacar is the absolute leader. Yeah. And not to say that Jorgensen is going to win the Dauphiné, but everyone's a leader until they're not. I suppose UAE at the Giro 3 weeks ago.
Indeed.
But indeed. Yes, anyway, Visma had a good day. UAE did not.
Yeah.
I would point out that it is good to know that they were close together, the buses, because otherwise, like the idea of Pogacar walking across the whole parking lot to go find the Visma bus
true.
To then pick up the bike, that would be excessive.
More hilarious, yeah.
Just double checking. It's like, what's going on with this one? The other thing I enjoyed that people were fixating on was the fact that Pogacar had a drink within the first 6 kilometers. Which
it was 30 degrees.
It was 30 degrees. Also, let a guy be thirsty. Come on, these guys can't do anything.
I don't know. 30's not that hot, first of all. You guys,
it is for Europe.
It's the whole thing.
You're so soft.
But
second of all,
30 and an American 30.
If it's a 17K, I mean, you could probably make it to the finish without,
Well,
it's like...
I mean...
It's like, is this the cycling equivalent of how apparently ex-British Prime Minister Tony Blair used to start giving a speech with a full bladder so that he would concentrate and get to the point and get it done as quickly as possible so that then he could go and relieve himself afterwards.
That was a tip that a teacher once absolutely gave us when we were doing public speaking. Is that if you want to be get the answers done, if you want to get tick all the boxes,
focus your mind.
Know that you've got to be absolutely fixation.
So it's the same with so I reckon it's the same with your time trialists. Make them extra thirsty, and then
maybe
they'll get to the finish line
Pogačar is unwell. Should we provide him with another excuse? Maybe he's unwell.
Come down from altitude. You never know how you're going to react. Maybe this is my favourite theory: is that including the drinking in 6 kilometres, he's actually doing a bit of sandbagging.
Yeah,
He's gone full Richard Plugger, and he's letting Jonas Vingegaard think, because we know that there's mind games that goes on between those two. We know that Pogačar likes to try and turn the screw when he can with his rivals. He's setting Jonas Vingegaard up to then maybe, I reckon maybe Pogačar could even let himself get dropped over the mountain stages of the Dauphiné and then come back at the Tour and absolutely sucker punch Jonas.
I feel like that's quite a big risk, though. I don't know. Maybe it's not a risk at all.
It's not.
It just doesn't. It doesn't. Well, no, I don't know. It doesn't really seem in character to me.
No, I think so.
I don't think Pogačar is programmed
shutting the
for
window
that sort of thing.
was his only mistake, or maybe that was part of the whole performance.
Yeah.
One thing I kind of appreciate from Pogačar, he doesn't often go to the well of "I'm not feeling well"
No, he
as
doesn't.
his go-to excuse, which a lot of riders do. A lot of riders do it to the point where it's not even believable. They just say it.
Well,
all the
Evenepoel
time.
before the Dauphiné, I'm not really. My wrist is feeling really sore.
Yeah,
that one at least we know he hurt his wrist. Like that one, at least there was a confirmed incident that happened.
Yeah.
I'm more talking like there's a
Movistar.
big mountain stage. Oh, I've got some stomach troubles, and it's just like every mountain stage. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Which maybe it's true they do, but then they go on and win the stage, and eventually you're like, okay, I can't trust you anymore. We don't get that from Pogačar a lot, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Then again, he doesn't have cause to give us excuses a lot. He just wins.
This is also true.
So
anyway, it's all set up for the weekend, for the Tour almost. What's your going? I want one more prediction that's going to age out almost immediately. Knee-jerk Tour de France winner prediction, just seeing a time trial that doesn't matter.
Vingegaard, definitely.
Yeah, Vingegaard.
Love it. Yeah.
I feel like there's it's not just the time trial. There's a change in attitude. I think.
The vibes.
I feel like
the vibes that are being picked up and put down.
I mean, in all seriousness, the vibe shift is great. Like, if we go through the Dauphiné, if in the next few days we see Vingegaard actually, take it to Pogačar on multiple occasions, then it's going to be a real,
maybe the best outcome for the Tour de France is for Evenepoel to win the Dauphiné.
Yes, he was the Santiago Buitrago we needed all along. Because then we never even expected that Evenepoel could be that person.
If Vingegaard wins the Dauphiné, then Pogačar is going to he's going to do everything he can, and he will win the Tour de France. If Pogačar wins the Dauphiné, the person who wins the Dauphiné is not going to win the Tour de France. Let's say that.
That's a great take. That's my favourite take so far this week, I think. You're right about the vibes though, because with that, the picture of the bike check, we had Matteo Jorgensen quote tweet it at Cervélos saying we've got a customer, and then Cervélos lumped in and said honestly can't blame him. So they are goading him. They are so supremely confident or relaxed that they are happy to ironically poke the bee's nest that has Pogačar in it this time.
Well, I feel like we have not seen Pogačar have any reason to get poked like this in almost 2 years now.
Yeah. True.
And I don't. We've seen him go from being a tour winner to being in a position where suddenly everyone thought he was never going to win a tour again. I mean, like when Vingegaard started winning, I felt like there was a sense of, oh well, okay, that's who's going to win the tour now. Visma's so good, they're never going to lose another tour. And then back to Pogačar being good again last year. I do think though that there's a very strong and new sense of confidence at UAE that I don't remember from before.
Sometimes misplaced, but yeah.
And I
not
think
when Pogačar's around.
Well, not misplaced when Pogačar's around, but it's there when the confidence is there, and I think it'll be interesting to see that tested because I don't really know that we saw that tested before.
Except last weekend.
Well, yeah, I meant more for Pogačar himself.
I know.
The people may have bristled when I've been saying it's only the Dauphiné time trial. People, it doesn't matter. I want to defend that just briefly because I don't think the Dauphiné even matters to the Dauphiné organisers, ASO, because they've only been giving us 90 minutes of coverage every day, which is a financial decision not born of not having the money, because ASO have unlimited money in a French sense, at least. So, I mean, this hasn't happened before, has it? I was trying to rack my brains. I swear before we've had like Kilometre Zero Dauphiné broadcasts.
I don't know.
Have we
don't
not?
remember
Has it
what it was
always
like
been
last
90
year.
minutes?
Yeah.
Either way,
But I agree, though,
it's a
that
shame.
I do think that it's weird because the race tends to have a really good start list.
Well, especially this year when it's like you surely would broadcast the whole thing when you've got literally every man and their dog.
But
at the race.
we might have mentioned this on the previous podcast. It's one of the it's a race that nobody targets. Like, and that's not because it's a 1 week race, because there are 1 week races that people target. Like, people will target the País Vasco, or they'll target Catalunya as their early season goal, and then they'll take a couple weeks off or altitude camp, come back for a Grand Tour. But they're actually hoping to win Catalunya or País Vasco. I don't think Vingegaard or Evenepoel or Pogačar is really going to look back with fond memories.
Buitrago might want to win the Dauphiné.
Okay, Buitrago might, but I think Buitrago as well is mostly just here to get better for the Grand Tours, where he's then going to be breakaway stage winning or whatever. Nobody really targets this race.
It's true. Final thing, I want to talk about the Dauphiné and specifically the time trial, if you can imagine that we're still talking about it, was that Remco Evenepoel's win was celebrated by Soudal Quickstep as the team's 1,000th victory. And if you hadn't known that based on the commentators saying it, then at least seeing Evenepoel on the podium would have left you in no uncertain terms that it was the 1,000th victory, because he had a cap on saying it, and he was holding up an XXL T-shirt saying 1,000 victories. But have you guys seen that there are people disputing this number online?
Well, including PCS.
Including Pro Cycling Stats.
When we saw this on TV and then the commentators, I messaged Joe and said, I'm going to mention that they say this is the 1,000th win. I'm not going to go put up a whole story about it without digging into it, because, it's like,
what are they
what's a win? What is a win?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been, various people have been reported it, people have been tweeting about it. There's been a lot of numbers thrown around, a lot of instances. So what we know for sure is that the team counts their first victory as 2003, the 5th stage of the Tour of Qatar, Cervélos Carnarvon. So that's the first one of then Quickstep David Tamon. I think I'm saying that right. I was only 9 at the time, so I wasn't watching cycling, sorry. And then it seems that Soudal Quickstep are including wins. It seems that Soudal Quickstep are including wins from Carlos Barredo that have since been taken away because of a little something called doping, which is slightly awkward. So victories in San Sebastian, a stage win in Paris, a Vuelta stage win, have not disappeared from like his list of wins as far as Soudal Quickstep seem to be counting it, because other people are counting like 997. They're also apparently counting a win for Ethan Vernon, who is a Soudal Quickstep rider, but got a stage at the Tour of Rwanda for the Soudal Quickstep development team.
Wow.
So, but Quicksteps, they like facts don't matter anymore. Everything,
Jesus.
politics, the whole world. Everyone seems to have you can disagree on anything. So Quickstep have made a big song and dance about this. There's been some accusations that Quickstep wanted to have Remco take the 1,000th victory. But then apparently, because they could have also taken it on Monday at the Antwerp Port Epic with Tim Malia, and so they were ready for that. So I'm not sure about that. But I mean, is this a big song and dance about nothing, or do you think this strikes at the core of what is wrong with society today?
I mean, they're pretty close, regardless.
Yeah, in Soudal's defense, if not today or yesterday or whatever, it's going to be like in the next 2 months probably.
Yeah.
But
It's
wouldn't
not
it be better
like
to do the tour? Imagine celebrating that at the tour. Sure, that's better.
Well, maybe they expect it to happen before the tour, so they
could be concerned they wouldn't. Yeah,
And is it the Tour de Suisse?
maybe.
Yeah, or maybe they'll count a national championship. That's the sort of thing they do, because you race in your kit, team kit for the Nats, don't you?
They do not count that apparently.
Oh,
Because
interesting.
There's been 24 national titles.
They're not counting the national championships.
No.
Then I feel like
Then
they
they're
at
way
least
off.
have taken 1,000 wins somewhere.
You reckon? Okay.
National championships are pretty close to I don't know if you win the Nats but you don't have any other wins. Do we say that you have had a first pro win yet?
Okay, I'm going to say this out loud.
Ooh.
On Slack the other day,
Depends
you were
where.
digging Fred Wright out for having not had a professional victory apart from
That's what I'm saying. I don't know that counts as a pro
Okay.
win.
I think
so
it.
now
I think
I'm
it.
wondering.
I think it counts in France and probably Belgium, where you see. I mean, the French National Championships is one of my favourite races of the year, just for the photographs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You've
an
got
automatic
15
Groupama win every year.
FDJ jerseys and 15 decathlon jerseys, and then
Ours are funny.
7 Arkea jerseys as well. It's just
The U.S. ones are often not. This hasn't quite been the case that recently, but like 10, 15 years ago, when there were quite a few second division teams. Now we're losing second division teams, third division teams as well in the U.S. There's fewer of them now. Our national championships were kind of funny because all the really good riders, the European World Tour pros, wouldn't go to nationals because it's like they're not going to fly back over right before the tour or whatever. But like United Healthcare, just mobbing at the front, just like full on United Healthcare train, and then the one EF, well, it wasn't EF at the time, the one Garmin Chipotle guy or whatever, trying to fend off all these riders who, he's a lot better than them, but there's a lot of them.
Did the M&M peanut butter jelly beans ever get in the mix or not?
I think they won a few.
Okay, that's good.
Now I'm gonna look up the Jelly
Classic
Bellies results. I mean, they had to have won some national championships. Like nobody comes to mind though. I feel bad. American listeners are probably shouting at the podcast.
Well,
earbuds
okay.
right now.
So I was expecting more disgust and outrage along the lines of what I'm feeling at this meddling
4
of facts.
national championships: 1 U.S., 2 Mexican, 1 Canadian. This is the story from Velo News outlining there.
Thank you for your service, Velo News. We
Yeah.
appreciate you. Okay, well, so personally, the way I'm going to approach this whole, was it 1,000 wins, was it not, is that when they do get their 1,000th win in like a week's time, I'm gonna celebrate it myself.
okay.
Apparently, Patrick Lefevre has, he was quite emotional. He told Belgian media,
Okay.
he was crying about it,
Was he?
which fair enough. I doubt it. Maybe he was. But yeah, good for them, I guess. 1,000 wins. Yeah, that seems a fitting way to end the first part. Or is it the first part? Who even knows anymore? Of the podcast. We're going to take a quick break, and we've got some interesting news on the other side to see there. We've only got one American on this show, which isn't usual for Friday, but we're American news heavy this week because Daniel Benson is reporting that a new US men's team led by none other than George Hincapie is in the works for 2026. They have plans for a Girona base, because where else? And they're apparently going to have a roster of 20 riders. Dane, how excited out of 10 are you? And how out of 10 are you expecting this amounts to something real?
Excited, I'd say maybe 8. And
Wow.
I also think there is a pretty good chance it will amount to something real based on the fact that they are attempting to become a European team. Because that's the big thing that always holds these teams back is they want to straddle the Atlantic. They want to be both a U.S. crit squad, race. Well, I mean, those half those races are gone. Yeah. And then they also want to try to race in Europe. And I think when Rally tried to do this, they really suffered because they just didn't have enough talent to win races in Europe to continue to generate enough interest to keep the sponsors interested, all that good stuff. And I think this is potentially a different story if they're going to be based in Europe. I think there's still going to be the question of talent. I think they're probably going to try to have American riders, and a lot of the good American riders are spoken for. And there was a time when if you were a young American rider, you might look to come up with a U.S. Conti team. Now I think if you're a good American rider, you're going to go to the Quickstep development team, for instance, that we just talked about, or Visma or UAE. That's where you're trying to sign. So that it's a little bit harder, I think, to attract those riders to an American team. But yeah, if you're European focused, that's the only way to really make it at the second division, which is pretty tough. But yeah, we'll see who they actually sign. Benson's got a few names mentioned, and I'm curious to know whether those guys would be actually good enough to win enough at the level that they're trying to race at. We'll see. I think it's exciting.
Those guys? I missed that bit of the report.
So he has connected. Well, first of all, he's connected some former pros to management. So Ty Magner and Joey Roscoff, which is cool. I mean, just example number 170 of me feeling old when I'm like, oh, I remember when Ty Magner won his first. Oh wow, okay, now he's a manager. Oh, okay. Apparently there are talks with Robin Carpenter, some guys from Project Echelon, some guys from Little Trek's development team, also in talks with Larry Warbass.
No way.
Yeah, so
that could turn out interesting. His evil twin Jordan Labrosse has been in the breakaway at the Dauphiné all day, which has been super fun. Final question on this American team. Don't know who the backers are yet. Don't know who the sponsors will be. If it could be any American company, Dane, to sponsor a cycling team, who would you want it to be? I
mean, this is a softball. I'm loving this question. It's an easy answer. It's McDonald's all the way. Because we've gotten Chipotle involved, which I'm a big Chipotle guy. But there was a time when they were a big sponsor. But if you want the real king of fast meals,
good colors as well.
I actually don't know that I like the colors, to be honest. Red and yellow, it's like fire truck red.
Would you have them?
It would stand out in the
McDonald's
peloton,
socks?
for goodness sake.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Go all in.
That's fun, Dane. It feels like with this US men's team, we're entering into like our own fantasy draft sort of realm where it's, pick a team, pick a company, smash them together. But that's also happening in the real world of cycling because Decathlon and AG2R Le Mondial are losing AG2R as a sponsor next year after 30 as a sponsor, which is sad. So that means no chance of the brown shorts ever coming back. But the good news reported by Le Telegram is that the cosmetic giant L'Oreal, because you're worth it, are coming on board. So we're going to have Decathlon and L'Oreal, which means that that's like the two of the biggest companies in France to sponsor, Sam Bennett and the boys.
I can't wait to see the adverts.
When my wife saw this, I showed my wife this story yesterday. She said, does L'Oreal make men's products? Which I think is a good question because while obviously women watch cycling, I think the audience, and we know this from our own site, I think probably skews pretty male heavy. So you would
L'Oreal Men Expert.
What's that?
L'Oreal Men Expert is a whole range. Yeah, it's a whole range of different products.
Well, what I discovered is that they also make the Polo fragrances. Like they're the ones who make Polo Black, Polo Blue.
Interesting.
And I'm wondering if we can actually maybe see a new, because you see watches, you see safety joggers, shoes, all sorts of non-cycling specific sponsorships. Could we get an official fragrance of the team? Because that would be cool. Like you go to the team bus and instead of smelling like
what would the Decathlon L'Oreal fragrance be?
I feel like they are one of the better smelling teams in my brief experience.
So
maybe because all of their stuff was all quite new because they changed the branding.
So we're not talking like sweaty socks and sticky gels.
It'll smell like the foothills of Chambéry where the team HQ.
Of course, it would have to, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I like with the L'Oreal men's products that they have to call it both men explicitly on the bottle and expert to try and get men to buy it.
But there's no E in the expert as well, is there?
No, there is, thankfully. We haven't got full links. And they've got Jamie Lannister advertising it all. So, I mean...
Really?
Yeah. Huh. Pretty nuts. Yeah, Dane, you know what? I'll stock up when I'm over... Well, actually, you can just get it in Britain. I'll stock up and send you some over.
Yeah, great.
Do some sponsorship activation for them before.
They've got a Dane advertising their French product. Right. They need to get some of their French team fellas on I'm
going to have a look at their
Benoit Cosnefroy.
Who's got a good Barnet? Who
does?
Benoit Felix Goll. He's got a good Barnet.
Yeah, but I can't imagine he can act. Bless his cotton socks.
What is the word you're using to describe what he has, Johnny? I'm like
Barnet.
Bonnet,
no,
like a hat.
No. B-A.
I'm so confused.
N-E-T.
What is this word?
My Barnet.
Yeah, your head of hair. There we go.
Never heard this word in my life.
Cross ocean.
Yeah, I'm learning something today.
Oliver Narsson, I think he could rock it.
Yeah.
Importantly, what happens now is that we're going to have shampoo wars in the peloton because Alpecin, obviously famously German engineering for your hair, caffeine shampoo brands. What happens if we get a Mathieu van der Poel, Oliver Narsson 1-2 in Roubaix, and they're both piling the products on top of the showers, and it's going to be a nightmare.
We're going to see if Evenepoel loses, he's going to go over to the decathlon bus and he's going to pick up. He's going to pick up. He's going to weigh the L'Oreal shampoo. And then we're going to see a little marketing battle on Twitter.
Yeah.
But yes, they increase Decathlon AG2R are increasingly become one of my favorite teams. I mean, people are going to send in horrible things that L'Oreal, the commercial giant, have probably done. But for now, I'm going to pretend that they are real companies, nice companies selling real products.
Do you get those emails, Johnny? When there's a news story, people just email you about why all companies are bad?
No, usually I say that, and then people email in telling me why that's not true, which is probably more fair.
Yeah.
But yes, transition us over to. I was
going to say, I think the saddest part of this is the final nail in the coffin of the brown shorts. But in the year that Romain Bardet, he was the most brown shorted man on that team.
He really was.
It seems only right.
Not
that Bardet has ridden for that team for 4 years, but still.
You know what? They'll bring it back in like 5 years to celebrate. This 2028 will be the 30-year anniversary of the team. I think it started in 1998, so they'll bring back the brown shorts for the Tour.
At least for the Tour de France, they'll have a special kit.
That's my early prediction. So that'll be fun. Right, that's more than enough Decathlon AG2R talk. Amazing that we've managed to fixate on both them and time trials. If anyone's still listening, congratulations. The last story I've got a couple more stories for this section. This is a fun story. Have you seen the fact that the Unibet Titema Rockets, so Bas Titema and the boys pro team, are giving anyone the chance to become like the named sponsor of the team for a real life race sometime in the future? All you have to do is buy €25 worth of merch from their online store between June 8th and 15th, and then they'll do a raffle, and then someone's name.
Are they paying us for this advertising?
No, but you know what? If you're doing something fun that I haven't seen before, then you get to be mentioned, and
it's definitely one up on the
media.
Visma. Yeah, it's definitely one up on
It's
the
better than
Visma.
the Visma.
Pay for us. Pre-order this ugly kit so that you can get your name on it in really tiny.
Yeah, I don't want. Yeah, that's the only time you can have names on a piece of clothing is when you're a year 6 school leaver,
right?
And it's all the people you're never going to see the rest of your life again.
Yeah, and a nickname you had for 5
what
minutes.
Is a school leaver, Johnny? Explain this.
Sorry. So when you leave primary school, and secondary school actually, the tradition was that because we wear uniforms in the.
I noticed this when I was over there. Every kid in uniform.
Yeah, you just all thought we'd brought back in.
I thought you were private school kids.
Yeah. But what you do is that you wear your white shirt to school, and it's often summer, so you're not wearing like a blazer or anything, and then everyone's allowed to write messages on your shirt from your departing classmates.
On like the last day, you mean?
Yeah, on the last day. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a memento for when you leave. We do it instead of the yearbook stuff, which seems like a faff, to be honest. And
yearbooks are a faff.
They are a faff.
Wow.
So yes, buy €25 worth of merch, which is kind of hard to do because they've cleverly priced a lot of their things at either like €15 or €40.
Ooh, nice.
Well, it's at least €25 though, so you can buy as much as you like.
You can buy as much as
as much
as you like.
This is them doing what they usually do, which is being pretty savvy about being billboards. I mean, that's what these. Yeah. Kaylee talks about this a lot. That is what their job is, to be a billboard, and teams that recognize that do. That's good.
Do better. Will they be making new kit with the? I suppose it will have to with the new name on it.
You bloody hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But then you have to pay again to get your kit.
You can. Okay, so if you want to spend exactly €25, you can buy the signed bib numbers of Lucas Kubis, their sprinter, from the Antwerp Port Epic on Monday.
Is that all it is? €25?
That's €25 for the.
That's quite a good deal.
Numbers.
They're going to be gone by the time. Yeah.
Oh, they are sold out. Sorry, I've just seen that.
So
is Jossa, who's one of the Titema boys who does the content. His cyclocross suit, which has sold for €35, which seems quite underpriced, but maybe no one wanted his second-hand clothes. Or you can buy their Cannondale Candy Bike frame set for $2,500. So there's options for all price points out there. I think that's fun. I would like to see more of this. I don't think I'll be entering this specific one, but the teams I would enter this for would be...
I was just going to say, is there a team?
Ineos, Bahrain, Wait, and I
Johnny
would name them.
Victorious?
No, I would
That'd be
name
great.
them Ian Treloar Business Friendly Bahrain, because I don't think Ian would ever go over that, and it'd be very fun. But yes, Decathlon L'Oreal Dane Cash, that could be
I
fun.
can dig that. Yeah, I do like Dane Cash Grenadiers. So that's kind of cool.
That is fun.
Yeah,
You can go and all guard hill forts together.
sounds great.
Would you mind if I transition us over to a very small news hit that involves my homeland, where there is a Victorian railway tunnel just southeast of Birmingham, which has been developed into an aerodynamic testing area. And it's because that's where a lot of Formula One teams do their training in that part of the world. And Dan Bigham, who's now over at Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, he's taken Florian Lipowitz to become the first ever rider to use this tunnel to do some aero testing in. Now, it's a 2.7 kilometre long tunnel, perfectly straight, all been retarmacked, repurposed from when there used to be trains in it. And he says that it's perfect because you obviously get no wind. You can do sort of real world testing. And I just think it's, in contrast to some of the other horrible things going on in the world, like Soudal Quickstep lying about the number of victories they have, it's nice that there is cycling innovation happening in the southeast of Birmingham.
I'm only just now thinking and realizing that in a wind tunnel you don't want wind, and it makes sense. But I never really considered that fact, that it would be really good to have a wind-free place.
So we're at Catesby Rail Tunnel. It's a Victorian rail tunnel in the UK, not far from Silverstone. Measuring the energy going in, the power going in, and then we measure the speed. In this ultra-controlled facility, that's pretty much all we need. The air density, super constant. The air temperature, super constant. The gradient, consistent. So we can just be very clean in how we do those calculations. From an aerodynamics perspective and engineering perspective, it's such a unique place where you don't have headwinds and tailwinds and crosswinds or ups and downs that are hard to measure with the gradient changes. So it's super controlled and super clean, which is everything we could hope and dream of.
If Ronan's listening to this, he's gonna be like, "You're all talking out of your asses." But yeah, I mean, we're showing.
He's not listening.
We're showing the if you're on the YouTube version, we've just shown the promo video on screen of Florian Lipowitz screaming down this very dark long tunnel.
Well, it worked. He came fifth in the time trial.
Maybe we need to ship Tadej Pogačar over to Birmingham. Maybe we need to take him to the Bullring, to the coffee shop on the top floor inside the train station where they also serve champagne, which is the weirdest place I've ever seen people knocking back a few glasses of bubbly. Let's
Birmingham
take
train station.
Yeah, let's take our final quick break. Centre ourselves because we've got an important topic to discuss to close out the show. You'll never guess what, guys. Cycling on TV, at least in the UK, it's all up in the air again.
Oh, joy.
Can you believe it?
Yes.
Yes, because, I mean, do you know, would you like to, I feel like I've done a lot of talking. Could you tell me the story, Kit?
I can tell you a bit of the story. I mean, I think we've talked about it on this podcast before, or we kind of, I don't know. So it must have been at the end of the first quarter of this year, or is that the last? There was a conference from Warner Brothers where they were only disclosing a certain part, they were separating out their disclosures basically, okay. which made some industry. And I was looking at this. I think I saw this because of my algorithm feeding me film and TV news rather than anything sports related. Yeah. So I was seeing it from that streaming and movie perspective. And at that point, there was suggestions that this was a massive hint that they were going to separate out the departments again, and that streaming and movies, which are the growth industries, or streaming is the growth industry, we're going to separate from cable TV, because that was where the line was drawn. Now at that point, it was completely unknown what that really meant and whether it was actually happening, or if it was just a kind of slight kind of, I don't know, picket fence between two departments in one building kind of thing. But no, now it certainly seems like that divorce is going ahead, and they've got personnel in place to make it happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be completed until sometime next year, 2026. and we still don't really know what it means for cycling. But what we do understand is that TNT comes underneath, and the streaming package that goes with that falls under the cable TV category, which is where all the massive amount of debt is going to be shipped off with. So studios, as in filmmaking, and streaming, as in film and TV, that will stay profitable, and all the mountains of debt that Warner Brothers Discovery have accumulated will be cast off into the abyss with cable TV and cycling.
Yeah, so this comes after the Warner Brothers and Discovery merged in 2022, and then just 3 years later, there is now this unmerging going ahead, which is just so difficult to keep up with, especially because the name of all the cycling stuff changes about every 5 minutes.
And also, we aren't business majors, or at least I'm not.
No.
To me, talking like I've been watching too much American TV, maybe that's why. But I did economics at A level and got an E, so that's about as much as I'm bringing to the table. But
what did you say you got?
An E. I did then retake it and get a B. But
E's a good thing.
No, E's a bad thing.
No.
E's a very bad thing.
Oh, okay.
It's one off an
we
F.
have A, B, C, D, and then you just get an F. There's no
A, B, C,
no
D, E, fail.
No, we used
you guys
the
have
whole
an E?
English alphabet. Yeah.
Really? Fascinating.
We had a U as well, unmarkable or whatever, unclassified.
Yeah.
But no,
Well.
I'm very proud of having turned it around and getting a B in the end. But it took me a long time to understand, and it'll take me about as long to understand what's going on here, I think.
Sounds like you got the qualifications to step into one of the roles managing this
Ineos.
massive company. And the look, it's definitely not a good thing, right? I think it's fair to say that the product we've seen at TNT Sports has definitely not got better, despite them saying that it was going to get better and promising us it was going to get better. Nothing on the people working for them. I'm sure they're probably working under fairly difficult conditions without much investment.
And like UAE, they can't say anything bad about any of their equipment or what they believe about what's going on.
Indeed. But yeah, definitely bad news for the English game, the British game. I mean, Dane's had to get used to this from just like signing up to different things every
I feel like the bad guy saying this. This is I understand how bad this is for you guys. For me, I already had HBO Max, so like I didn't have to do anything, and I just got to watch cycling. Like the fact that I signed up to watch the Harry Potter movies like 4 years ago. And then that's all I ever had to do 4 years ago at Christmas time, and now like I can watch
butterfly effect.
So I can't really complain on my end, but I understand that is not necessarily a shared experience.
I think, Dane, since this is an American company that's ruining our television coverage, I think you should apologize to us right now.
I am extremely sorry that this has happened, because I don't know of any British company ever doing anything to me or the world. Like I think this is exclusively an American problem.
Oh God, the emails are going to be
at least not. Oh, okay, yeah.
There are going to be a lot of emails.
That was definitely sarcasm. I'm surely people will understand.
I picked up on that. It was like I was watching on Plus One there. I took way too long to pick up on that.
I mean, the ocean is still recovering from a company literally called British Petrol.
Yeah,
like you really stuck it in the name so the whole world would know what you did when you spilled that oil, etc.
Bad marketing.
So.
Should have called it American oil. That'd be much better.
You didn't, even if you're not even an American company, just call it that in case you spill all the oil.
In case you don't mess up. Anyone for any more? Or I would like to move into After Dark, if not, because I've got a few more thoughts on TV, on watching one of the final broadcasts of ITV's cycling program. Because usually I'm at the Tour de France, so I'm not able to watch it. But this week I have been dropping in and out of the live coverage, but then every night I've been watching the highlights show, which, Dane, I think you've ever seen it, but if you could see it, it'd be like a Neo-esque realization for you of what you could have.
You're talking Matrix, like I'm seeing all the green numbers and letters and symbols.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool.
Final thing, are we excited for the weekend? I feel like we should maybe touch on that for the Dauphiné.
I'm
we've got a couple of big days.
Saturday is a brutal day, and I've done those climbs, and they are horrible. The Madeleine, I think they're actually going up the opposite side, so they're descending the side that we went up. But oh my goodness, it's a brute.
It's a long one.
24.7 kilometers.
And the Quad Affair is rugged, but that's a nice and it's a more pleasant climb. I think it might be longer, or it's technically harder, or on paper. But the Madeleine is
22 kilometers at 7%. That one.
Yeah, the Madeleine it was a bad day.
And they're both some serious elevation.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't live at it.
Three stages, 3 mountains, all horse category.
Yeah, all topping out pretty much at 18 or 1900 meters. A total, if I could do the maths quickly in my head, that's and there's a total of 62 kilometers at least of categorized climbing. I think maybe 63.
Yeah, it's incredibly tough.
Barely any flat road. Saturday's going to be the day. I've got nothing to do on Saturday, so I will be watching all 90 minutes of that race being broadcast.
Well, we barely even see the first climb, will we?
We won't see it. That's the thing. That's the thing. When the other day when Mathieu van der Poel was fighting to get in the break, and we didn't get to see any of it. I just want things to
90 minutes of coverage and an hour of highlights.
Look, I don't mind which way it goes if there's more or less. I can't deal with the flip flopping.
Yeah.
I need to know. Humanity society is based on being able to try and predict the future with a degree of certainty. But yes, so Saturday's the big day. Watch that. Watch Tadej Pogačar sandbagging his way to eventually another Tour de France victory. We are going to see all of us. I think Katie's back on Monday, so it'll be.
So you'll have your American.
We'll have our American. We'll swap in and out our Americans. 1 in, 1 out policy.
Will he be as interested in the delights of your culture to ask about the E or the other thing? Your levers, whatever the hell that means. I don't think so. I feel like I bring that. I bring that interest in your culture.
Oh no, we appreciate it. The fact that you've taken over a month of very precious vacation for your people in our sunny isle.
Well, not a month. It was literally 2 weeks. But yeah.
It might have felt like a month though. No, I appreciate it massively. I think it's nice. I think that's one of the things that works is that I also have an appreciation for your culture. We were talking about the bank.
This
is getting into After Dark territory. Let's call it here because we're about to give some of the medium to good stuff to the freeloaders who we enjoy them listening, but at the same time there are levels to this game, and what we do now is thank you all for listening. But we're about to enter into After Dark, which you can access by becoming a member of Escape Collective, escapecollective.com/member, and that is where we enter into the trust tree. So you pay to get in, like any fine establishment, and then we say things that are potentially slightly spicier than the real show. Not that this is all an act, but just we can be a bit more honest than we already are. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of messing around. There's some truth. There's
rarely any cycling.
Where sometimes
no, I was
everything
overdoing that, but
it's like the Wikipedia game where you have to try and get between one topic to another in the fewest clicks possible. I reckon we're always 2 clicks away from a cycling topic. But anyway, I'll stop.
Before we leave, can we just give a nod to Marlon Russa, who has just beaten Demi Vollering on stage 1 of the Tour de Suisse?
Absolutely,
not many people do that very often.
That's pretty cool.
Absolutely love that. That's pretty cool. Big week for Movistar. A Movistar
Wait,
back.
What?
I mean, they've never been away.
On that note,
yeah. Actually, the very final thing. If you remember as well, you might have noticed a special podcast hit your member-only feed, which was an interview I did with Molly Weaver, who's a retired professional road racer who is now does a bit of ultra and is setting off on Saturday or Sunday morning. It's very confusing because it happens overnight. Sunday morning to try and beat the British mainland circumnavigation record. So that's 7,730 kilometers, 70,000 meters elevation, and she's going to try and do it in fewer than 22 days. So if you want to do an interview in person, no Zoom, it was very refreshing. Half an hour. If you've got a ride, go check that out, please. Thank you for listening. We're going to head into After Dark now. Goodbye.